Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is ZK013 bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It is Wednesday, January 11th, 2017. We've got a nice 6-game slate following up last night's mega 9-game slate. Last night was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. A lot of options, a lot of different studs to pay for, a lot of decisions to make, and not too much value. Some value opened up at the end. Chicago was obviously a strong place for value. I wasn't big on the Chicago guys. I made that clear. I did think that they were going to get blown out, which wasn't the case, but I came out okay, even avoiding those Chicago players. And the one lineup that I had Rondo and some other Chicago guys and Wall, it didn't cash anyway. But luckily for me, my cash lineup cashed in probably about 95% of my contest, my cash contest. So that did good. Cashed in a GPP, I put it in. I was happy with my cash line. A little disappointed by George Hill and Derrick Favors. Had them together for some assist correlation. And it was going good. And then in the fourth, Derrick Favors had to get 4 fouls. Only played 25 minutes, so they didn't put him back in. And George Hill kind of went silent in the second half. After scoring up, I think, 18 fantasy points in the first half, he finished with 25. So a very quiet second half. Cleveland obviously made a little run for a comeback there. But last night was definitely fun. I'd mentioned DeRozan would go under-owned, and he would probably be a solid play just based off of that. And gotta say, not to toot my own horn, but I was obviously right. DeRozan put up just under 60 to get 59 on FanDuel. So on DraftKings, he was probably over 60, I'm sure. Phenomenal slate. Had a lot of fun. Glad I cashed, of course. GPPs, I didn't do I didn't have as much success as I'd hoped. But in the cash games, I won on my cash games, which is the most important. So, all right. So we're gonna start today with the first game, obviously, like we always do, which is the Knicks. Now I know yesterday, the title of the podcast was Rose Goes AWOL. Obviously, he did come back to New York yesterday morning, and he joined the Knicks at practice. He claimed that he was having personal issues. He said it had nothing to do with the team, the coaching staff, or his situation. He went on to say that he never felt like that before, and he needed to go home to see his mom. So he didn't really elaborate. He's not a very outspoken dude when it comes to speaking about his struggles. Obviously, you see that he didn't even tell his own team that he was leaving or that he was feeling any kind of, angst or whatever it was. So, on the last podcast, I did say take it easy on the Knicks players going forward. However, if Rose is back, I guess business as usual. I don't really know how to approach it. I could say that Rose is at that 66 number on FanDuel that I don't like, so I don't know. I think a lot of people will be off of Rose just because they're mad at Rose, even though he's one of the probably your better values going today. Most of the good point guards are paying premium prices for him. So anyway, let's get started. Let's dive in. Try to be as unbiased as possible and try to look at this from a clean perspective. So Derrick Rose obviously in play, not afraid of his matchup. He's either going to see McConnell or Sergio. So he's got a good matchup. He's not home. I think Derrick Rose typically plays a little bit better at home. I'm not positive on that, but Rose is definitely in play at 6,600 if you're looking to save some salary. Courtney Lee, I'm not too big on Courtney Lee today just because Philly's actually been okay against shooting guards this year, and Courtney Lee isn't exactly a usage monster. So I think I'll be off of him. Carmelo's interesting today. He's 8,000 on FanDuel, so his price did creep up. It's a little high for me for Melo. It might seem like a safe matchup, and I'm sure it is. It's just I know Melo has been speaking about feeling discomfort in his shoulder, and unless he was just exaggerating the last time he spoke about it, which was a few days ago, he'd mentioned that it was really bothering him, and that every time he plays, he feels it, and he's dealing with that. So that could be tough. Now, I don't think it's really deterred him from taking, his million shots that he always takes. But his minutes have been down. Now, we're not going to count New Orleans because he got ejected with 26. But before that, he played 27 against Indiana. That was on the back end of a back-to-back. So he's had a couple games now where he's played under 30 minutes. So I would imagine that's better for his shoulder. So as much as I maybe don't want to pay 8,000 for Melo in my cash games today, I may not have a choice just because of the scarcity of the position. Well, I think there are a couple guys that are interesting today, but Melo seems like one of the safer options. Not the safest, but one of the safer options. Going on to power forward, I think Porzingis is in play. Porzingis came off a straight dud. He didn't get ejected or anything like that. I know he just came back from injury. He played 24 minutes and 17.3 fantasy points, which I think is probably a new low for him. Or no. He had 12 fantasy points against Golden State. So maybe there's a trend there. Maybe certain teams give him a hard time. No, because he played New Orleans and put up almost 50 against them last time. So this was just, I think the Rose situation kind of just threw everybody off here. And I'll be hopping back on Porzingis today. I don't think he's going to have another dud. He's a young dude, is very confident, and after a bad game, I don't see him just sticking around and being satisfied with those performances. So Porzingis is $100 cheaper, and he's at a position that I think may be a little more scarce as far as upside goes. So I definitely like Porzingis today. Joakim Noah is an option, but we've seen those minutes once again creep down. He's now the same price as Montrezl Harrell, and Harrell honestly has been more consistent. So 18 minutes against New Orleans, 21 against Indiana, and 20 against Milwaukee. Those are the minutes in his last 3 games. Before that, when he had a little nice streak going, he had 41.2 fantasy points against Houston, 30 against Orlando, 34.2 against Milwaukee. He played 31 minutes, 33 minutes, and 29 minutes. So Noah needs minutes to produce, and he has not been getting them. He does typically play better with Rose on the court. I think it might be just a comfort thing. He knows Rose's tendencies. He's played with Rose for a long time. So obviously Noah would be a GPP play. I think if you're playing cash and you're going to punt at that position, you go Harrell in cash and maybe Noah in GPPs if you want to get funky. But I don't know how much Noah I'm going to play. He's going to have Embiid today. So on the one hand, he's going to have a tough matchup. Embiid is no slouch, obviously. On the other hand, you would assume that if Embiid's going to be in the game for those 28 minutes or whatever that he's limited to, you would imagine the Knicks would try to keep Noah on the court, their best rim defender, as long as possible, even though the Knicks rank almost last in fantasy points yielded to centers, or DVP. So we're going to talk about Philly while we're in this game. Did I even mention the total in this game? I think the total is about 210, and the Knicks are favored by 2.5, somewhere around there. On the Philly side, I think McConnell's going to draw the start. Don't really like him against Rose. But in cash games, you might have to put him in just because he's only 5,400 and he's been playing monster minutes. Sergio did come back against Brooklyn, but he only played 12 minutes, so it looks like they might be easing him in. Or maybe McConnell did so well while Sergio was out that they're trying to stick with the hot hand here. So pay attention to just in case. We don't know for sure if he's going to start, but if McConnell starts and is expected to get the run he's been getting with these, I mean, look at his minutes: 36, 37, 35, 36. If he's going to keep playing those minutes, I'll play him. His price did creep up. You don't really like to see that 54, and he was better in the 4s. So now that he's in the 5s, it makes things a little weird. But I mean, a nice little correlation game stack. You can go Rose and McConnell maybe. Just a quick suggestion, but I think McConnell's definitely in play, and he's, as of right now, in a slate that lacks value. And that's what I got to mention. I did take a quick look, and there is not a lot of value today. There really is just not many options if you're trying to save money. And we do got Westbrook, we got Harden, we got Wall, we got Chris Paul, Damian Lillard. We got a lot of studs and not a lot of value to get them. So don't get me wrong, there could be some value opening up. There's a couple guys in Orlando who could sit, so we don't know what they're going to do in Cleveland, so we'll get there. But just keep in mind there's not too much value here. And I think that a guy like Marcus Smart, who was 5,200, and he's listed at the point guard position on FanDuel, I think he'll draw a lot more ownership than McConnell, but I don't know. The reason I say that is because Smart has been tearing it up lately, and Smart has the higher upside, theoretically. So Smart's been playing monster minutes, but he played last night, and he played 38 minutes last night. So I'll be fading that, but we'll talk about that. But anyway, shooting guards for Philly. This is a place you typically want to attack the Knicks. I just don't like what I see. I don't really trust Nick Stauskas. He's coming off a decent game, 25 FanDuel points against Brooklyn. He played 31 minutes. But the minutes have even been inconsistent. You can't really bank on him. He's 3,700, so I think he's if you have to force value today, he might be one of the places to go just because at least he gets above 25 minutes, so he's in play. And obviously the Knicks are very weak against shooting guards, so I think Stauskas is in play. I definitely do. I might have to use him in cash if no value opens up, but I'm hoping that some value opens up and I don't have to use him. And I'm hoping that in GPPs I can use him as I feel. Though, like I said, 3,700. If you think he can get you 20 points or more, then he might be somebody you need to plug in cash. So just pay attention. Covington, no thank you. He's going to be dealing with Carmelo. Not that Carmelo is the best defender. Covington gets a lot of minutes, so if you wanted to do another correlation play as far as getting somebody cheap, the Sixers team is where you're going to go today to get some forced value. Forced value meaning there's no injuries. It's just the guy is just cheap. So Covington is extremely inconsistent. He's been playing well lately. He's put up over 30 FanDuel points in 3 out of his last 4. But we all know he's capable of those horrible 13.9 type games. So I think Covington's okay today, just based off the limited value that I keep mentioning. So I think Covington's in play. I'm not going to say he's not. Ersan Ilyasova is interesting today. He's 5,900 on FanDuel. The Knicks aren't the best defensive team against power forwards. Obviously, Ersan is a stretch 4, but Porzingis can also get out there and knock down those shots. So it'll be interesting to see them go at it. And they're both pretty good shooters for big men. Well, they're very good shooters for big men. And so it'll be interesting to see how they combat each other. Lately, Ersan's minutes have been up. His last game, he only played 26 minutes. But after that, 32, 32, 37. So if he's going to get another run like that, I would consider him in all formats. I'm not afraid of Porzingis' defense. A lot of people seem to assume that he's a good defensive player because he gets a lot of blocks. But if you look at the Knicks DVP, they're not so great against power forwards, at least last time I checked. I mean, things could have changed, I guess. But matter of fact, I'm going to check right now. I got the DVP tool pulled up over at WiseTake.com. It's a free tool if you guys haven't checked it out. So I'm going to pull up the Knicks are ranked 26 against power forwards. So Porzingis has not exactly been a defensive threat. So I think Ersan's definitely in play. I do have interest in this game. It's a close spread, pretty high total considering on the night. So I do have some interest here. I have interest in a lot of things. So that's the whole issue. Power forwards on the Sixers. As far as Nerlens Noel, he's been getting a better run, and he has that upside against Boston. We saw him put up 35.6 FanDuel points in just 25 minutes. The Knicks obviously struggle against big men. So Noel, I think, he's cheap enough for a cash game play, but his minutes, you don't know. If he's going to keep getting this 24, 25, sure, I plug him in cash. I think there's a chance that he hits his value. But if there's a risk of him playing less than that, it's risky. It's really risky. So hopefully we can get some information. If you think, go by your gut, do some research and go by your gut. If you think he's going to play 24, 25 minutes, he's a great value at 4,600. He really, on a night where there's no value, he's a solid option. So, do your homework and let me know what you find. Dario Saric is interesting. He's 4,200 and he's been playing a lot of minutes. Now, this is a GPP only play, and the reason I say that is because he does have upside that he's shown it before, but he's very inconsistent. He's very volatile. You can see 22, 15.9, 18.9 his last games, but then before that against Denver, 32.7 in just 28 minutes. So he's a very volatile player, GPP only, but again, 4,200. So if you're looking to save that money, you gotta at least consider him, or at least look at him. For center, it's pretty simple. For Philly, don't like Okafor. I don't think he's any good. It's a shame because I liked him at college, but I just don't think he's that good. And Joel Embiid, 7,500. I think he's in a monster spot today. His price is up there, so you're paying for it, but you want to talk about consistency. The guy doesn't get more. I mean, his last 2 games, he broke 30 and didn't play more than 26 minutes. His limit is 28. The last time he got to play, well, he played 29 against Denver, and when he did that, within 29 minutes against Denver, he played 30 against Minnesota. So in those two games, he scored over 40, and that was with 29 and 30 minutes. So if you think he's going to get a little run today, I don't know if the Sixers are playing tomorrow. Maybe I should check that out, perhaps. Give me 1 second. I just want to see if the Sixers are playing tomorrow, just to get an idea. But they're off tomorrow, so I don't see why they wouldn't let Embiid get a decent run here, especially with Porzingis on the court. And I guess Noah. Noah I'm not too concerned about. He's not really an offensive threat. But with Porzingis on the court, they're going to want a rim defender. And Joel Embiid can pretty much do it all. So I like Embiid today. 7,500. He may be my favorite center, but I don't know. We'll get to it. Moving on to Memphis at Oklahoma City. This one is interesting. These teams recently played. And the last time they played, the total is 204. Oklahoma City's favored by 5. So these teams played back on December 29th. And it was probably Russell Westbrook's worst game of his season. It was in Memphis. Westbrook, I believe, got ejected. He only played 23 minutes, but I think that was because he got ejected. And 21 actual points, 25 FanDuel points. So that was a pretty bad game for him and his team. The total isn't so attractive, but for a Memphis game above 200, it's not bad. Obviously, Oklahoma City is favored. Westbrook has been on a tear. Since that game, he's been on a tear. So after that Memphis game, he hosted the Clippers and only played 29 minutes and still got 55.4 FanDuel points. So he's been, I guess against Milwaukee, 48.4. But except for that, he's been over 50 in, 5 out of his last 6 contests. And that's since his 25-point stinker against Memphis. So I guess the question is gauging how popular Westbrook will be. That's going to be the way to go, way to figure out if you're going to play him or not, because he's obviously got the upside you want. So in GPPs, of course, he's in play. You would think he has the safety you want, but last time he played Memphis, it didn't go so well. And aside from the ejection, he wasn't on pace for a good game anyway. He didn't have any assists in 23 minutes, none. That's not Westbrook-like. Memphis is very good against point guards, with Conley back especially. So, he's been back, so I guess that could be why they're so good against point guards. But I believe they rank first in DVP charts. So, it's tough. I don't know if, on a slate with no value, I don't know if you could justify paying this price for anybody. And Harden's going tonight too, and we're going to have the same question with Harden. So, obviously, you're going to want one of these guys, but I don't think there's enough value to force them both. So, Westbrook is interesting. I think if you want to take Westbrook lower owned than usual, this is one of those spots. Slow-paced team, good defensive team. Westbrook is home. Now, I do happen to think that Westbrook is going to want to come back and have a monster game, because I'm sure that he's aware Memphis is typically considered a bad matchup for people. And I'm sure that he feels like he can prove that he's better than that Memphis defense. So I think he may be playing with a chip on his shoulder, even though it's Memphis, just because of the stinker he put up last time. So definitely think that Westbrook is in play. I just don't know which formats. GPPs, obviously, but I don't know, because you got to try to gauge and see. If everybody else is going to be on him in cash, then you might not want to be the guy that's not, just in case. But if he's going to go under-owned, there's not enough value to really force him today. Moving on to shooting guard, Oladipo is in a pretty good spot. Not really afraid of Tony Allen, especially not Troy Daniels. So I think Oladipo is in a pretty good spot. He's 5,800. He's not gonna kill you to get in there. His consistency is still there. He's above 20 in his last 6 FanDuel games. His last 6 games since coming back. He's over 20 FanDuel points in his last 6 games since coming back. So his consistency is there. He only played 25 minutes against Chicago. So I think that he should be a little, kind of fresh here. And I think he'll get a solid run in this game. So I can see them looking to Oladipo to score. Roberson, I don't like him today, just because I typically only like him against in games where they're gonna need his defensive services, because he's not exactly an offensive stud. But while I'm talking about him, he's been playing okay. Other than against Chicago, 16.4 FanDuel points. He put up 24.9 against Denver and 28.8 against Houston. So in pace-up spots at 3,800, he could be a solid play, especially if there's a team where they're going to need him. So in Houston, he guarded Harden. Hence 36 minutes defensively, he guarded Harden. He got 2 blocks. He didn't get any steals, but he did get 9 rebounds and 14 points. He was just on the court in a pace-up game, a lot of opportunities. Against Denver, very similar stats against Denver. But again, 39 minutes he was on the court in a pace-up game. So I think I like Roberson more in pace-up games, and this is not that. Moving on to power forward, Kanter's GPP only, just because you don't know what his minutes. I think Kanter should get a decent run here, just because of Gasol and JaMychal Green and of course Zebo. So I do think Kanter gets a good run. Kanter might be my favorite play from Oklahoma City, at least in GPPs. Center, obviously you got Adams. His price is now up to $6,000, which stinks because I enjoyed paying that low salary. But he's been super consistent. He deserves the raise. He hasn't been under 20 FanDuel points since December 4th. So you want to talk about safe. He's probably as safe as they come at the center position, at least for today's games. So Adams, even though he's 6,000, see, that's my point. You know, that some of these guys that have been playing well and consistent, their price went up, which you would expect. So we're going to have to pay attention and see what value opens up. We haven't discussed any of the injuries yet because nobody's in these games have been out. We've only talked about 2 games. But Adams definitely a safe play. And they're going to need him against Gasol. The matchup is tough, I'm not going to lie. It's definitely going to be a tough matchup, but I think you could still consider him for sure. On the Memphis side, Conley's in play, 7,200. Westbrook is not a very good defender, and Conley has been playing very well lately. 34.9 against Utah. Before that, 49.8 against Golden State, 40.4 against Los Angeles. So I think Conley's definitely in play. I feel like a guy like him kind of plays with a chip on his shoulder when he's playing an elite player, kind of like Damian Lillard. We'll talk about Lillard later, but I think Conley kind of steps it up. I think he knows he doesn't get the respect or like the name value or the name brand that some of these other guys get because he's on Memphis, and you know, a lot of people don't talk about him or his market. So I think that when Conley gets an opportunity to play on TV, which this game is on TV, and an opportunity to match up with one of the best in the game, I think he steps it up. So at 7,200, I think he's definitely in play on a slate with no value. So moving on to shooting guard, I think Tony Allen's definitely in play. At 4,700 is one of the few value plays on the board. Of course, we're hoping things open up when we hear more information later, but at 4,700, not afraid of Oladipo's defense. I think Allen can get it done here. Allen has been playing a solid amount of minutes. Against Utah, he only played 23, so give him a pass there. That was just Utah and Memphis, just a terrible matchup, terrible game in general. But against Golden State, he got 48 minutes. Granted that he did play in overtime, 39.9. So for upside, I think you're looking, he's not a guy that's typically going to hit 40. He didn't even hit 40 in 48 minutes, so it's not his thing. But he can get you 20 to 30. I think fairly easily in a matchup like this. It's a pace-up game for Memphis, so while the matchup is rough for Oklahoma City, it's actually pretty good for Memphis as far as playing up in pace and playing a bad defensive team, etc. So I think Tony Allen's definitely in play today, and you might need him. So I think he will be. If there's no value that opens up, I think he might be popular. I could see guys going with Harden and Allen just because there's no other cheap options. Don't like any of the small forwards for Memphis. Zebo, I'll probably be off of Zebo now that JaMychal Green's back. I don't know. He gets that run with the second unit. He's been playing great. Against Utah, 35.7 FanDuel points in 27 minutes. And against Golden State, 48.2 FanDuel points in 35. So in these pace-up spots, I think Randolph is okay. With Green back, now he's splitting some time, so he's coming off that second year. So he's definitely in play. I just don't know if I could trust him in cash. I don't know if his consistency is there. His minutes are typically pretty low, or at least not not that they're low, but you want to go after guys that are playing 30 to 40 minutes, not guys like him. So Michael Green, 4,500. His price is significantly dropped, but that's because his production, for the most part, has dropped.
he still has that upside to get you to 34. We saw him do it against Sacramento, but his minutes are very inconsistent lately, and so is his production. So in a pace-up spot, I think at 4,500, I think you're okay with him. But I don't know if he's not exactly a guy I'm going to staple my teams with. It's not too much confidence playing a guy like him. And it's finally a center, Marc Gasol, 8,200. I think on DraftKings he's only I think he's under 7. It's a obviously much better price for a guy like Marc Gasol. At 8,200, I don't think I could do it. Now, he had a very good game against Oklahoma City the first time. 33 minutes, 47.6 FanDuel points. But at 8,200 on the road, they're going to try to adjust to make sure he doesn't kill him. So I think I would like to pass on Gasol at 8,200. Don't get me wrong. I think he'll be a nice contrarian GPP play if you want to go there. I don't think he'll be popular in cash at all. It's a pace-up spot, so it's not a bad spot. I just don't want to pay 8,200 for a center today because there's too many other tough decisions to make. So I definitely think he's in play. I would say GPP only because Adams and Cantor aren't the best matchup. But you saw what he did to him last time, so you saw what he's capable of. So he's definitely in play. Moving on to Houston at Minnesota. Is this one? There's a few games that we're doing this morning that don't have lines out yet. I don't think we've hit them yet, but okay, yeah, Houston and Minnesota. So it looks like this is one of the games that, surprise, surprise, that do not have a line just yet. We've got an 8 o'clock start time. We know Clint Capella is out. We know that Eric Gordon. You know what? I don't know if he's out. That's interesting. Yeah, okay. Apparently he's not traveling with the team, so Gordon's going to be out today. We just got a line out for Houston, Minnesota. It looks like literally just happened. 219 is the total. Houston is favored by 3.5 to 3, depending on what book you're looking at. Oh, okay. We got all the lines. All the lines are out. So that's perfect. So then, yeah, let's open up Houston and Minnesota. So Capella's out. Gordon's listed as questionable, but I just read if you go to FanDuel's player page and you click on Eric Gordon, it says he's not traveling with the team. So they have him as out. Zach LaVine is questionable with a hip. He got hurt in the last game. So let's start with Houston. Patrick Beverley. I like playing Beverley. I'm not going to be playing him until I hear his wrist is better. I didn't like what the last thing I read about him, and I think it might have been on the FanDuel page if you click on his name, was that, I'll read it to you. Beverley mentioned that he can't shoot without his adrenaline pumping, which is how he's been getting it done on the court in recent games. So, evidently, this wrist injury is a lot more painful than I thought previously. Maybe you didn't, but I didn't think it was that bad. I'm thinking it's just a sore wrist. If he's saying that without adrenaline pumping he can't even shoot, I don't want to be anywhere near this guy. So I don't want to be on Beverly today. And that explains why I had to sweat so hard with him. I think it was Sunday, or whatever, against Toronto. 19.9 FanDuel points. Killed me. I still cashed, luckily, but no thanks to him. And now I get why. He's struggling. So I don't think I want to go there. Not against a team that's been playing slower and slower every day and is not as turnover prone as you would want. So I'm off of Beverly. Harden at 12-4. Again, it goes back to the value. If LaVine plays, his matchup gets a little bit tougher. He's still James Harden, so you know what he could do against anybody. But if LaVine is out, his matchup gets a lot easier. Unless they put Wiggins on him, which I don't think they can, because I think they got to keep Wiggins at that 3 spot. If they were to, okay, Wiggins is obviously one of their better defenders along with LaVine. I think Wiggins is probably their best defender. But at 12-4, like I said, if you can't find value, you may not be able to take Harden. So, because you got to think, if people are going to force value, then they're going to have all the same plays. There's only a couple guys you can afford to take with these studs today. So, I never like to fade Harden. Minnesota is a good defensive team, or they're supposed to be. Tibbs is a defensive-minded coach. Doesn't mean that they're a good defensive team. So, Harden definitely in play, long story short. Ariza, I'm off Ariza. If Wiggins is going to be on him, I don't want anything to do with him. No, possibly if I hear Wiggins is going to cover Harden, then I love Ariza. Most of Ariza's buckets come from assists, and Harden obviously is the assist leader on the team. So if I get word that Wiggins is going to cover Harden, which I doubt, I highly doubt that. That's just, I didn't hear anything that they were going to do that. It's just, I know that the Hornets put Michael Kidd-Gilchrist on Westbrook when they played, so I thought maybe it's possible if LaVine can't go, just because they know they have to cover Harden. I could see them potentially putting Wiggins on him. So the reason it depends is if he wouldn't put him in cash either way. Ryan Anderson, GPP play. I don't think Deng is going to be able to get out to the perimeter to cover him. But at the same time, as far as rebounds and all that, he's not out rebounding Deng, so Dieng, whatever. So Anderson, GPP only. Harrell, I love Harrell. I love Montrezl Harrell. What's not to like? I just wish Nene wasn't around so that he would get more run. If Harrell got the full run that he's supposed to, he would be a beast. And he's a great guy to typically pair up with Harden because he's another guy that gets most of his buckets from assists. Harden's obviously a big assist guy, and that's why it's tough to fade Harden because he doesn't just score. He does score, but he doesn't just score. He gets assists, double-doubles. You're talking about triple-doubles, all that. So that's why it's so hard to fade Harden ever. But Harrell, I think, is in play at 4,800. You just have to worry about the minutes. Now, I would think they would want him, the younger guy, to keep up with Towns, but at the same time, they might go with the veteran. I think Nene is there for his defense, so I think Nene might get some run here. Even so at his age, he doesn't get that much of a run, so Harrell is definitely still in play. And like I said, I'd put Harrell in cash today. I put him in cash yesterday. He didn't hurt me. I think he got me 30. At 4,800, I'll put him in cash again today. So I'm cool with Harrell, although I prefer pairing Harrell with Harden. So if you can make it happen, that'd be better. Going to the Minnesota side, I'm off of Rubio. He's coming off a big game, but he's got a tough matchup. If Gordon doesn't play, Harden becomes an even more epic play, just saying that. But if LaVine plays, I think he's definitely in play against Harden. I don't see anybody in that team that's going to stop him. But that's if he plays. If LaVine is out, even if LaVine plays, Wiggins is still a good play. Even though Ariza is one of the better defenders on Houston, he's still not a great defender. So I like Wiggins either way at 6,300 on a thin, small forward position, night. But if LaVine is out, Wiggins becomes a lock. You just press the lock button and you sit back and watch. His usage goes up crazy high if LaVine is out. I think it's just under 40. You would think that all that usage would go to Towns, but no, a lot of it actually goes to Wiggins if LaVine is out. So if LaVine is out, Wiggins should be the lock button. And if LaVine plays, he should still be considered. I like Wiggins today. He might be my favorite small forward. He always is, though. Especially in cash games. How can you go wrong with a guy that gets just under 40 minutes regularly? And he's coming off 2 duds, but he's got that upside, and he's usually consistent with those minutes. Wiggins is typically pretty easy to figure out. It typically goes by matchup. And in a pace-up game against a bad defensive team, I would say this is a good matchup. Now, if LaVine doesn't play, we could be looking at some value here. Will they go with Brandon Rush, who is listed at the shooting guard position 3,500? Rush doesn't do much, so I'm hoping it's not Rush. The guy I'm hoping they put in is Shabazz Muhammad. Shabazz Muhammad, he's a little more involved, let's say. Like, he could put up duds too. And either way, I'm not saying I'm going to play these guys, but they do open up value if LaVine is out. So if a guy like Shabazz, who normally gets around 20, he didn't do much. The couple times he got 29, 25, he didn't do much with it. But he got 25 minutes against Oklahoma City on Christmas, and he did put up 20.2. So he's got potential here. If he can get a 30 minutes or so, he's got potential. But either way, I like Wiggins. Wiggins is my guy in this game either way, and maybe LaVine. Like I said about Deng, I love Deng in cash. Pace-up game, so a lot of opportunities for a lot of rebounds. And he didn't do so well in his last contest, but he's pretty consistent. Another guy that gets mega minutes. He'll play 40 if he has to, and he's typically above 25 in most of his games. So I think he's your cash game guy today at power forward in a pace-up game. Karl Anthony Towns obviously in play, but it's going to be tough to fit everybody. I think if you can make a way to, if there was value on the slate, I'd love to go Towns and Harden or something like that. But there's, depends on value. So you don't really need to, there's not much to say about Towns. He's 9,500. He's expensive, but he's Towns, man. He's good. He's got that upside that you want. Center's not very deep today, so it might seem deep. I guess it's kind of deep. I shouldn't say that. Actually, center is kind of deep today. So Towns, I'm sure his ownership would be lower. It's hard to do a stars and scrubs approach today unless anything opens up. But Towns obviously in play. I'd say GPPs because his price is so high, but you know he's got that upside. All right, moving on to Washington at Boston. We just got a line out for that. It's 216.5, and Boston is favored by 5.5. Avery Bradley is still questionable with an Achilles. He missed yesterday, and when that happens, you know what? Let's talk about Washington first. John Wall, 9,500, same price as Cat. Wall's in a monster matchup. What else can you say? Obviously, both these teams are playing on the back end of a back-to-back. Wall's 9,500 against Isaiah Thomas. Coming off a 50 burger. Gotta love Wall. I mean, he's not my favorite guy just because of his price, but you gotta love him as far as what you think he could do against Isaiah Thomas. Monster spot. Although if Bradley does not play, I think Beal becomes an epic spot. So you got some stuff to look at here. If Bradley don't play, which I don't think he's gonna, if his Achilles is out, he didn't play yesterday. I don't see why he plays today. It doesn't make any sense. You might as well give him today off and enjoy your day off tomorrow. So I like Beal a lot. Wall, what can I say? Wall's in a great spot. It's just a matter of if you can afford him while still constructing a decent lineup. Love Beal. Porter's interesting. He's going to have a Crowder on him, so I don't like him all that much, but I'm going to have a couple shares of him just because of his upside. Porter's one of those guys that has that upside, so there'll be a couple lineups with him in there. I like Markieff Morris today. I don't trust him in cash. I've learned not to trust him. It took me a while, but I finally learned. But he's been playing pretty consistent lately. Against Chicago, he didn't really get the minutes you wanted, but he still got just under 30, so he got you there in 22 minutes. So the fact that he only played 22 minutes, as long as he's healthy, I would imagine he gets a decent run today. So I do like Markieff a lot today at 5,100. I may put him in cash because he has been more consistent lately, and Boston happens to struggle against power forwards. So I may, but I may not. I don't know. But I definitely like him today, regardless. Gortat, I'm not crazy about Gortat. He's typically been a nice cash game anchor. He's been pretty safe at 6,400. So I think you could go there, although his last two games we've seen a little drop-off. You could go there. I just don't want to do it against Horford. On the Boston side, Isaiah Thomas obviously in play. Wall's not known for his defense. I think Marcus Smart is interesting, 5,200. I think that he's going to have Beal on him, which doesn't really scare me, but I'm concerned that because there's no value, people might try to force it with Smart today. And if they do that, I think he's the perfect fade candidate. I know I said to fade him yesterday, and that burned me. It backfired on me. But he's come on. He played 38 minutes last night, or I'm sorry, not last night. On the 10th against Toronto, and that's why he got 35.3. So he don't usually play that many minutes. I think it was a situation where they needed him because of DeRozan. So if he doesn't get those minutes, he didn't get that production, and he's been doing well on his defense. So in a matchup against Beal, I think that if Smart is as popular as I think he's going to be on a slate with no value. Now keep in mind, Smart is cheaper than TJ McConnell. Yeah. So that's why I think Smart's going to be super popular, because McConnell's one of the cheaper value plays going right now as far as forced value. Forced value meaning you didn't wait for anything to open up. You're just forcing somebody who's already priced low. And I think Smart is going to be more popular because he's got more upside, which is fine. But matchup-wise, I don't know if this is the best matchup for Smart, and I don't know if he'll get those 38 minutes again. So I don't know. I think in cash, you could go there. You should certainly go there if Bradley's out within cash. But in GPPs, I think he might be my guy to fade. Shooting guard, Bradley, I don't know. Now they're saying he's a game-time decision with his Achilles. We'll see. I don't think he's going to play, but he's listed as a game-time decision, so pay attention. If he does play, I do like him, I guess, although I'm a little concerned about his injury. If he doesn't play, a GPP dart, GPPs only, you can consider Gerald Green. He got 24 minutes against Toronto, and this is a guy that can score. So if he's going to get another 24 minutes, I'll take my chances that he does higher than 18. I think that he's a guy capable of putting up 30 against Memphis. He put up 27.5 FanDuel points in 18 minutes or 19 minutes. So I think if he gets one more run in the 20s, I think he could do something. So in GPPs, I might have exposure to Gerald Green. And, he's an interesting value play. It's just the minutes. You can't put him in cash because you don't know about his minutes. Jay Crowder, I'm done with this guy. Can't stand this guy. I don't mean that. I do mean that. I really can't stand him. But I'm not going to completely throw him out. His upside this year has been non-existent. I think he's broke 30 twice all year. So he was a guy that I used to consider a nice cash game play. I thought he was consistent. He's proven me wrong multiple times over, so I'm off of Crowder completely. Amir Johnson, interesting punt option at small forward. Not afraid of Marquise Morris. Amir Johnson has been playing better, although his last 2 games he put up some stinkers. Now, keep in mind against Toronto, they don't have a true power forward, so I think it was tough to fit Amir in. Washington does. They have Marquise Morris. They have a true power forward, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Amir get more run here. So I think at 4,100, Amir is definitely interesting. Al Horford is interesting, but center is a little deeper, like we talked about, and he's 7,400. I don't think Gortat's going to be able to cover him on the perimeter, which I think bodes well. If you want to play Isaiah Thomas, who I don't even think I talked about Tom. Isaiah Thomas is definitely in play. 8,900. Wall's not known for his defense. If Bradley's out, Thomas's usage goes ways up. So, if I didn't mention it, Thomas is in play. And pairing Thomas with Horford is typically a pretty good idea. Horford gets a lot of his points from assists. And obviously Isaiah Thomas is their assist leader. So, decent correlation play there. Moving on to, looks like Cleveland at Portland. We didn't have a line for this game, but I think we do now. Okay. Total is 220.5. Cleveland is favored by 3.5. Another game where both teams are playing the back end of a back-to-back. So we'll start with Cleveland here. Kyrie's certainly in play. Before we even talk about Cleveland, keep in mind that this is the back end of a back-to-back. They may rest somebody. They played a tough game against Utah yesterday, and they lost. So they may rest somebody here, may rest a couple people. I don't know. They might rest Kyrie because of his hamstring. They might rest LeBron just because. They might rest Love just because, he hasn't looked so great lately, so maybe he needs to take a break. I don't know. So obviously, if one sits, the other 2 are must-plays in this kind of matchup in a pace-up game on the road. If all 3 of them play, I think Love and LeBron might be my favorite guys. And that's because, number one, I think that Portland struggles against power forwards for the most part. Now, last night, Julius Randle didn't have a great game against Portland, and I did mention I was concerned that Plumlee was going to clog it up down low, which I think is what happened. But keep in mind, Love shoots threes, so it doesn't matter if it's clogged up down there for him. Anyway, let's stick with Cleveland. So Kyrie in play, 8,400. He's not a bad price for him. His price came down a little bit, so coming off a rough game against Utah, but that was a tough matchup. My concern is that he played 39 minutes in that game, and he just came back from a hamstring injury, so I wouldn't be surprised if they sit him. So keep an eye on this game. It's at 10:30, so we may not know if somebody's sitting. We may not know. So, just be careful, I guess. And that's pretty much it. Moving on to the shooting guard. Kyle Korver finally got some PT, but I'm still not ready to play him yet. And he didn't get much. He only got played 18 minutes and had no involvement in that offense just yet. Jordan McRae is in play if Kyrie sits. If Kyrie does not sit, no thank you. LeBron James always in play. I think he'll play. I don't know for sure. But if he does play, it'll probably be in my cash games. And 47.7 against Utah. Like I said, I like Kevin Love today, 8,100. I prefer him over Kyrie. I might prefer him over LeBron just because of the price difference. But we'll see. Small forward is pretty scarce. And I'm off of Tristan Thompson, not against Plumlee. On the Portland side, I love Lillard today. He's 9,000. I wish he was a little cheaper, but the reason I like him, you saw last night, he wasn't playing that great, and then I guess D'Angelo Russell annoyed him, kept elbowing him or whatever, and then he just went off after that. So he's definitely a guy that he plays better with motivation. And I know in the past he's said that he gets really hyped up when he's playing star teams or other star players. He's got Kyrie, LeBron, and Love. So I think he's going to be up. I think he's going to be way up for this game. So I definitely like Lillard. More of a GPP play because if he duds on you, which is possible, you just paid 9,000 for him. So I would say GPP only. Maybe you could put him in cash if you feel more secure, or if you find out that Kyrie's out or something. Not that Kyrie's a good defender, but I love Lillard today. Um, don't know about Cash. McCollum I also like today. Little concerned they might stick LeBron on him just because I don't think LeBron needs to cover like a Harkless. But then again, I don't know if they have anybody else who can cover cover those guys. So maybe not. Maybe not. If LeBron is, you know what? I don't know if they can. So McCollum's in a monster spot. Cleveland struggles against shooting guards. That's number one. As long as LeBron or nobody like that covers him, I think McCollum's in a great spot, 8,700. So he's expensive, but he's in a good spot. Don't like the small fours against LeBron today. Aminu, I think, is in play. I think Love is, you saw what Favors did to him yesterday. So Aminu's been playing a lot better. Aminu's been solid, man. He's been a solid cash game play every night. And I think that continues today. I'm not afraid of Love. So cash game and GPPs, I like Aminu at 4,600. Plum Dog, definitely like the Plum Dog today. You like to pair him with Lillard, especially for that assist correlation. 6,700. He's coming off a rough game, and Cleveland's not very good against bigs. At least Thompson's not. So, especially with Love losing 10 pounds, I think Mason Plumlee can kind of bully his way down there, and the offense has been kind of running through him lately. So, I definitely like Plumlee today. Moving on to the last game of the night, we've got Orlando at the LA Clippers. Total is 208.5. Clippers are favored by 10.5. This is a game that's interesting. We got a couple questionable guys here. I think Elf is questionable with a quad, I think, and then Serge Ibaka's questionable with a shoulder. I think Ibaka missed practice because of it. Ironically enough, regardless of who plays, I don't really like either of those guys. What I'm interested in is who gets the usage after and if any value opens up. So if Elf is out, Elf is the one that I could see missing. I don't know if Ibaka's going to miss. I know his shoulder hurts and he missed practice, but I guess it's very possible they both miss it. But they said that Ibaka was getting some kind of 24-hour treatment, so they're hoping he could take the court. So, but as far as Elf, when your quads are hurting, man, there's not much you can do. Without your quads, you can't run. You can't really do much. So I think if anybody sits, it might be Elf. If Elf does sit, Fournier, Gordon, Vooch, all their usage goes up. DJ Augustine, all their usage goes up. So it's interesting. The problem is I don't see the Magic keeping this game close because the Clippers are a good team with Chris Paul. So Paul's in a monster spot. We've seen that when Paul's healthy and he's getting his fair allotment of minutes by himself, we've seen what he's capable of. He put up 29 minutes. He put up 56.2 FanDuel points. So I think Paul's going to be super popular today, rightfully so. If you think Orlando has a chance to keep it close, load up on Paul because obviously he's a monster. Going back to the Magic side, don't like Elf even if he plays today. Not crazy about Augustine or Watson. Just the matchup against Paul I'm not crazy about. Fournier is interesting, but Redick is not a bad defender. The Clippers don't do bad against shooting guards, so I don't know. I like Gordon today. I'm interested to see what the Clippers do with their lineup. I think their last game they put Redick at the 3, and if they're gonna do that, then I like Fournier. So if Redick is gonna cover Fournier, no, thank you. If Redick's not gonna cover Fournier, I'll take him. If Redick is gonna cover Fournier, I'll take Gordon. Gordon's 4,600. Small forward is scarce. He's been playing a lot better lately, and he also gets a usage boost if Ibaka and or Elf is out. He gets a boost either way, regardless of who's out. So I might like Gordon today. He's coming off a dud. Didn't like Ibaka regardless, but Vooch is interesting. I'm not too afraid of DeAndre Jordan's defense. I'm just worried about Vooch's playing time. It's tough to put Vooch in catch because you don't know how much he's going to play. But he's got the upside, so GPP is definitely in play. Going back to the Clipper side, obviously I said I love Paul. Paul's my favorite play in this game, hands down. I don't think that's a hot take. I think everybody probably agrees with me there. I think Redick is okay, but if Fournier is on him, no thank you. Crawford's only 4,000, so as a punt option, I think he's in play. He runs that second unit typically. No thank you to any of the small forwards on the Clippers. I don't want any of the power forwards either. Maybe Spades, but if Ibaka's out, maybe Spades. But if Ibaka plays, no thanks. And then DeAndre Jordan. I mean, if you want to pair him up with Chris Paul for the correlation, you can. But center's fairly deep today. I don't know if you have to use a guy like him. So that's pretty much it today. We kind of went like improv. Normally I like to have some notes prepared and all that. That wasn't the case. Got a lot going on today. So did the best I could. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video or the podcast, depending on where you're listening. If you're on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, subscribe as well. If you're not a member yet, membership is free at WiseTake.com. Gives you access to our free NBA DFS projections for FanDuel and DraftKings, as well as our cheat sheets. Just something to help you out, some raw projections, a place to start. Again, I appreciate you listening. If you need to reach out to me, you can find me on the WiseTake forums, which you also get access to when you register. Or you can reach me on Twitter at CK_013. With that said, as always, good luck.